Hi there.
Hi there. Happy fall.
Happy fall.
Although it doesn't feel like fall.
It definitely does not feel like fall. It's 85 degrees today and bright sunshine in beautiful San Jose, California. And we are not having the fall cocktail because it's just too hot for that.
Yeah, I love the fall cocktail. I love the rum, maple syrup, and
so
ginger
good.
thing.
Yes, and we will enjoy it as it gets a little cooler. But
darker spirits are for a different time of year.
It's true. It's true. So
those dark spirits. You need to watch out for those dark spirits.
Yes, we do. Today we are enjoying a variation on a gimlet. Gimlets can be made with vodka or with gin. We're using Uncle Val's Botanical Gin, which is a very lovely gin.
We love Uncle Val's.
We do love Uncle Val's.
Yeah.
So this is Uncle Val's, and then it's the lime simple syrup that you make from scratch.
Thank you.
And it's got some key lime in it too, so it's tart and sweet and yummy.
It is very tart and sweet and yummy because it feels like summer outside, but it is in fact fall. So what are we doing here today, my friend? What is our conversation about?
So we've had a lot of questions lately about what we do. You and I do together as School for Seekers. And School for Seekers, if you don't know, right? Well, we ride in convertibles together. We eat chocolate. We laugh. We drink. We have lots of fun. But as School for Seekers, we do some of those things. Hi, I'm Benton Stokes.
And I'm Elane O'Rourke.
And this is Cocktail Theology. One of the myths about us that we'd like to dispel right off is that School for Seekers is not a church.
It is not a church.
We get that asked a lot. And we do have meetings of people, small groups. When we were meeting in Nashville regularly, we had a Sunday night group. We're looking forward to doing the same thing in San Jose. But we were not organized as a church. There was not a sermon. There were no potlucks. Occasionally we would have a potluck.
Occasionally there was a sermon. Occasionally there was a potluck.
Yeah, a sermon, though. I mean, not really. You don't really sermonize at School for Seekers events. You teach.
Yeah, I guess I don't sermonize
You don't
very much.
really
I rant occasionally.
Well,
which passes for a sermon in many churches.
Yeah.
Long extended rants.
Long rants.
But yes, you're right.
And we don't have committees. We don't have a church board, although we do have a board of directors for our nonprofit that we just recently created out here in California. So we don't function like a church. While we do accept donations, we don't encourage people to tithe to School for Seekers. And tithing.
Although if you wanted to give 10% of your income to School for Seekers, we would use it to the benefit of people.
We definitely would. Many pastors I know that I've sat under will talk about tithing. If you don't know what tithing is, it's giving 10% of your income, whatever that looks like, to your local church, specifically for continuing and supporting the work of that local church, is the way that most pastors will define tithing. We don't ask for a tithe. We do require financial contributions to do what we do. So when we ask you guys to support us financially, that's what we're asking for.
But you can keep listening even if you never give us money.
You can.
And we won't look down on you.
We won't guilt you into doing that.
Not much.
Not much.
Okay.
Not much.
So what you've just said is we are not a church, even though we gather people.
Right.
We don't demand a tithe.
Right.
We don't have committee structures.
Right.
Those kinds of things about churches.
Right.
May I go on about the why we're not a church?
Yeah.
Okay. First of all, I need to dispel any notion that anyone might have that I might ever want to be a pastor again.
You did that.
I did that. I loved being a pastor. What I didn't like about being a pastor were many of the things that are about churches. That is, getting lots of people in, making sure that they're all getting along together, dealing with disputes among members. Oh, God, I mentioned that twice. Okay.
We really hated that part.
Right. Creating activities for the purpose of people doing things together. Finding ways to work Christianity into bowling. This does not work.
You don't like doing that?
No, I don't. I don't like doing that.
I'm shocked.
I know.
Okay.
I loved going out and holding worship at San Jose Pride and being able to preach outside San Jose Pride that people are wonderful. That was awesome.
Absolutely.
Loved that. You know, I admit that I enjoyed having a title that people then could say, oh, I know what you do, instead of now where they go, what do you do?
What is it you do?
But yeah, what I love doing is having conversations with people, guiding people, giving them things to think about and to try on and to improve their lives, to improve their relationships with God, to do some healing, get rid of, you know, some of the unhelpful ways of thinking about God and humankind that keep them from enjoying all of this creation.
Yes.
All of this magnificence.
Right.
That's what I like to do. And as a pastor, you only get about 1.5 minutes every week to do that. And the rest of the time, you're doing other stuff.
Doing all that other stuff.
Yeah. We're also not affiliated with any denomination or with any church.
Right.
And that's important.
It is.
Another way we're not a church, and I'm conscious of this one because of having to file those nonprofit papers with the feds.
Yes.
We don't have a creed, a distinct set of worship specificities. We don't have things you have to believe. We don't. Churches have a structure that can differ from one to another.
Yep.
But it includes things like a basic outline of what the faith is, a basic way that you gather. These kinds of things are part of what it means to be a church.
Yeah.
Okay? At least under the IRS rules, which are actually pretty good about this, honestly.
Yeah.
We don't have most of those distinctives. And because we're not beholden to any denomination or any local church, we're just not like that. That's not what we do.
That's not what we do.
So if the Southern Baptists say, oh, what you're doing is terrible, and the Episcopalians say, oh, what you're doing is terrible, we're like, yes, we've got it right. We're on the right track. Rather than, oh, no, we are going to be disbarred, disputed, dismembered. If you have a worshiping community, whether it's a church or a synagogue or any other kind of worshiping community, I think that's awesome. I think you should stay in that.
Yes. Yes.
By all means.
We are not here to replace your church.
No, that's not our goal.
Right.
And we won't feel as if you're being disloyal if you go to other things besides School for Seekers events.
Wow.
I know. Well, you might. You're gonna hunt them down and say, you're being disloyal. Shame,
you disloyal
shame.
Christian person. You know.
Non-Christian,
Or
whatever you are.
whatever that is.
You're being disloyal to us. Can you imagine that?
No, I can't imagine that.
Can you imagine either of us saying that if somebody leaves us, they were never one of us? It's like, oh God, please grow beyond us.
Yes.
Please.
Please.
That
Absolutely.
would be awesome. Then
That
come
would
back
be
and
great.
teach us something.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. So, So that's another way in which we're not a church, in at least the way that it functions often in the United States now. So those are many of the things we're not.
I will also say that we're not a school.
Oh, yeah. See, the name is kind of tricky on that, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. We're not a school. Sometimes we get asked, are we some sort of an accredited program? Are we working in conjunction with some institution of higher education? And the answer to those things is no. You will not receive a diploma or a degree for spending time with us, even though maybe you should.
I think just getting through being with us.
Or at least, right, yeah. You should deserve, you get a party or some sort of pat on the back for having spent time with us. Yeah.
The balloon of 6 months.
Yeah. We bestow upon you the 6-month balloon. Yeah.
But yeah, and we also don't, although we are lodged in San Jose right now, it's not because we are building a campus.
Right.
Or even an online presence that operates as a campus. That's a great thing to think of.
We are not a school. In our name, it says School for Seekers. And in some tiny church cultures, seekers means non-Christians looking for Jesus.
You mean unchurched, unsaved?
Uh-huh.
Heathens?
Perhaps.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Yeah, we don't talk to them at all.
So we should be a school for not seekers.
The not school for the complacent.
The not school for the complacent. Yes.
Okay, so no, that won't work either. But continue. I'm sorry to interrupt you.
So while we do certainly welcome people that don't identify as Christ followers or Christians or any of those names, we are a school, not a school, but a school for people who are seeking God. Our take on that is seeking God in the way of Jesus. But we also recognize that there are lots of experiences of God, and we welcome people that come to us from traditions that are not necessarily Christian traditions.
And I would say that one of our great success stories is someone who left the Christian church.
Yeah, our friend Pam.
God
love her, and he does.
Very, very much. And God knows how much closer she is to God.
Yes.
Than was
now
before.
Now that she's no longer a part of a Christian fellowship.
And that's a success story for us. Those are some of the things we aren't. Anything else we aren't that you want to make sure you dispel?
We aren't a cult.
Damn it.
We played with the idea for a minute. Could we get people to drink Kool-Aid?
Come back! Oh, crap. There went my cultic power right there.
All right. Dang it. We're not a cult.
We'd be so much richer if we were
a
cult.
We would, wouldn't we? We sure would.
All right. So, yes, we're not a cult.
We're not a cult.
We're not a sect.
We're not a sect.
We got called a sect. You know that, right?
We got called a sect?
We did. We got called a sect.
Oh, I love that.
Which is not a cul-de-sac.
Called a sect.
Called a sect. Yeah, we got called a sect. And I was like, does the person know what a sect is? Because, anyway.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, that's fine.
One of the big things that we're not is we are not affiliated with any denomination. So when we say that, it's because we want you to understand that we don't expect you to come here and accept a certain dogma or creed that we're going to give you. That is not the way we operate. Mm-mm. So here's one of the big things that we are. We give people space to figure that stuff out. Mm-hmm. A lot of what we do is help people sort of deconstruct the ideas that they have about God, faith, heaven, relationships, all that stuff. I had a friend yesterday that I was having coffee with. She gave me an illustration that I thought is fitting for some of the work that we do. She said, deconstructing your faith is sort of like going into the attic and opening up a box, and you take things out of the box and you look at them and you decide, is this useful anymore?
Yes.
And you may pick up an item and say, this isn't useful in the way that it has been in the past.
Right.
But I can use this in a different way.
Absolutely.
Or I can,
so
this can be helpful for me in a different way.
That's really good.
And so a lot of what we do is help people do that.
Right.
We help people look at traditions and things that they've been embedded with throughout the course of their faith life, whether it's been 2 weeks or 20 years.
Right.
And help people look at that and see, how is that serving you now? How is that working in your current paradigm? Right. Is it holding you back?
Right.
Because sometimes getting to the place where you can accept new ideas about God means getting rid of some old ideas that you have about God. Mm-hmm. Before we start loading you up with a lot of new stuff you hadn't thought about before, one of the really helpful things that we try to do is give people space to figure out what is and isn't working currently in their faith life, in their relationship with God, or in their life in general.
Right.
What do you need to keep and what do you need to let go of, and what maybe needs to move from this chair to that chair?
I like that, this chair to that chair. I think that's a great way of thinking about it. As somebody who taught academic philosophy for a long time and worked in identity politics for a long time and have worked with youth a long time, I'm very conscious of the internal desire after you deconstruct something to take the entire box and throw it out the attic window and say, I need none of this anymore. It's all been damaging, it's all been terrible, and it's all wrong. Mm-hmm. That can be a really purging and useful exercise. Mm-hmm. In the long run, it doesn't actually serve us.
Right.
Because if we ever had those as part of our box, they're part of us.
They're part of us.
By rejecting them, we are setting aside an entire part of us that in fact informs us, in fact develops who we are, that in fact touches our true selves, all those things.
Yeah.
It also then, that kind of rejection disallows the opportunity to find good in things in a new way.
Right.
So I think one of the things that we do that's really important is, as we're helping people unpack that box, deconstruct the things they think they believe, regardless of what it is we also then provide a net for those things to fall into.
Right.
Right? So that they don't have to say, for example, and I've heard this said, so, I know I'm gay, hence all straight people are bad, which is that either or thing that I'm not a fan of.
Yeah.
Instead, we hold on to, here's your experience, here's what you're coming to understand. You don't have to completely throw out the experience. Let's come back to that.
Yeah.
Let's come back and see how that informs who you are now and who you will be.
Right.
So I think that's that safety net aspect, that we call it a sandbox, where we create sandboxes for people to try things and not commit to them necessarily while they're figuring it out.
Yeah, trying on ideas is a big thing, and that's part of where we differ from most churches. We encourage you to try on ideas that might feel uncomfortable or might even be contradictory to what you've been taught in church.
Right.
Whether or not you adhere to those ideas when it's all said and done is not really the point. A lot of it is the experience of just trying these things on. How does that feel? How does that work? In light of where you are today,
Yes.
how does that work?
Yes.
And so a lot of folks who find their way to us are at a point of crisis or crossroads or some defining moment, and they need a little bit of help navigating that, because it's causing them to sort of run into a wall of trying to reconcile what the faith that they've been holding on to says about the situation that they're in. I mean, there's so many. You think divorce is wrong, and now you found out that your spouse has cheated. So what do you do with that? You have a child that's come out to you as gay, and you think gay is wrong. What do you do with that? You've been faced with a diagnosis that's scary. You thought you were going to live forever. What do you do with that? And they're just needing to navigate that and figure out what life looks like on the other side of that.
Right.
So we try to help them get through that in a way that doesn't cast a judgy gaze, like, if you went to your pastor and asked some of these questions, and it was the type of pastor that was pretty dogmatic, he or she might be like, well, we don't approach it that way now.
Right.
A lot of people that do that end up leaving the church and leaving faith because they just don't see where it works.
They fit.
Where they fit in it, or where it works with their current life situation.
Yeah. The other piece of that is that we actually do believe some things. And that's important if you're coming kind of from the other side, right? If you're coming from the end that says, whatever you believe is fine, your reality, my reality, they don't have to be the same reality. Okay, there is a reality, and we may perceive it differently.
Right.
But the fact that we believe there's a reality that we may or may not be able to know means that we have some kind of baselines.
We do.
I think the advantage to working with us in this way is that we're going to tell you what our baselines are.
Yeah.
We're not going to be afraid to do that. But we understand that your baselines may wind up looking different. So, for example, we teach in a Trinitarian manner. And what that means is that we teach with the construct of God, with God being three persons. So we talk about God. We talk about Christ, or Jesus when Jesus was here walking around. And we talk about the Holy Spirit, that those are an interactive trinity of persons within, to use the icky language, the Godhead.
Yeah.
Right? We teach from that basis.
We do.
I will speak for myself. I believe it is possible to have a relationship with God that is not structured in a Trinitarian manner.
Oh, I believe that too.
Oh, good.
That was close.
I know. Dang it. That wouldn't that have been funny? What? Okay. But we're also not going to say, well, as long as it works for you, it's okay. If you think that sacrificing babies is what appeases your God, we're going to call the police. And I just want to be really clear about that. It's going to happen. I'm just going to alert you now. We're going to tell your neighbors with small children that they might want to pay attention.
Yeah.
We have some bases.
We do. And we've talked about probably most of those on this podcast.
Yeah, and if
over
we
the
haven't
course
yet,
of a
we
couple
will.
seasons. Yeah.
But I think that there's something about knowing that the people you're talking to actually have views that they've walked through and tried and tested and have come to, that creates a kind of safety that everything's okay actually doesn't do.
Right.
Most people, particularly if we're deconstructing, are not ready for everything's okay.
No.
And even if you hold that as an intellectual idea, it doesn't actually work in real life.
Well, it takes people a long time to get to everything's okay from what you're dealing with 6 inches from your face is not okay.
That's right. And I hope that if people are facing abuse in their face or in their home, that they get to the point where they say, this is not okay.
Exactly.
Reality is, this is not okay. Not my reality, and your reality is something different. This is not okay.
Yeah.
What else do you think are distinctives about us? What do we do?
Well, we sometimes have wine or alcoholic beverages at our meetings.
We do.
And not within the context of Eucharist or Holy Communion.
True. Oh, one thing we do during Eucharist and Holy Communion, depending upon what you phrase it, is we offer both wine and juice.
We do.
Because we think that both
can be done.
You do not have to choose one or the other. Right. God is very, very good at blessing both juice and wine.
Yes.
So
fully capable.
Fully capable. We believe in a fully capable God as part of it. I want to add to that although we gather with people, and we love to gather with people, and if you're in the San Jose area, please come gather with us. You can email us at info@schoolforseekers.com or Elane@schoolforseekers.com or Benton@schoolforseekers.com and ask us how to do that. We would love to have you here on Sunday nights starting November 10th. Though we gather with people and we work very closely with the people with whom we gather, our primary goal is to get out information, to train souls and spirits. Here's a way to think about it. We are like a therapist would be, but we don't deal in therapy. We deal in soul and spirit.
Yes.
We're like a nutritionist would be, but we deal with soul and spirit.
Yes.
So our goal is to get you to be completely capable on your own.
Yes. Yes.
With some input from us if you need it.
If you need it, right.
And so we provide coursework, we write blog posts, we have a newsletter, we do cocktail theology, whatever it is, so we can help people understand how deeply and completely they are adored and cherished by God, and how much they matter. Yep. If we can get that out, we're good to go.
Yeah.
We will also refer you if it's something we can't do.
Yes.
More often than not, we will say, you know what, that's not something we know how to do. Now, some people have asked me, well, if really you're just about education and formation, and what I mean by formation is spiritual formation, right? Our spirits and our souls get formed by all our encounters and what we do in our lives. We can either choose to have that happen haphazardly, or we can exercise some control over that. I'm in the mode of exercising some control over that, so we do spiritual formation. Some people have asked me, well, if what you really do is spiritual formation and education, why do you worship at your meetings? And what I say is, well, I've got Benton, and it would be stupid. I am not a fool. But usually, besides that, what I say is, if we are talking about the eternal God, starting and ending with an awareness that God is huge and wonderful and amazing, and allowing ourselves to let go of what's on the outside of this, allowing ourselves to stop beating ourselves up about the laundry that's still in the washing machine, allowing all of that and focusing our attention on God through music, through art, through prayer, whatever, is incredibly important.
Yes.
It is so easy to walk into a class and just use your brain. Just use your mind. Just be working on, well, what does that mean? Well, what does that mean? Instead of being, wow, God is in this if I allow it. Yeah. So we bracket with worship partly as a structural thing. It will help you become more attuned to God.
Yes.
The other reason is it is good for us to stop and remember why we're doing this.
It is.
I think one of the places that churches go incredibly wrong is separating those as different things so that education happens and there's no worship in it. There's no that sense of there is something bigger than I am, and awe. There's no awe in it.
Yeah.
And worship can be so completely tedious and unintellectual that you're going, oh my God, literally, oh my God. So that's one of the things we do.
Yeah.
I thought of something while you were talking, though.
What?
So, I spent a couple of years in a Zen monastery.
Yes.
Okay. So, you keep saying, I'm wagging a finger. You keep saying, way of Christ, way of Jesus, way of. I have a word for you that you may not know yet.
Okay.
It is a word that is roughly Japanese, although who knows where it actually came from. The word is do. D-O.
Okay.
D-O. It means way, as in the way of.
Okay.
You may know where I'm going with this.
I think I do.
You think you do? So what we really do is kind of run a dojo.
Yes.
And if you know what the word dojo means, it has come to mean a place where one learns and practices a particular martial art or a particular physical activity. However, a dojo could also be a place where one learns and practices meditation, a place where one learns and practices art. It could be any of those things, because what you're learning, what it is jo is a place, do is a way, so it's a place of the way.
Ah.
Right?
Okay.
And it's about learning the way.
Okay.
If you go into a dojo and you're learning Aikido, for example, you're going to learn the culture of Aikido. You're going to learn the way Aikido is thought about. You're going to practice Aikido. You're going to practice Aikido by yourself, just doing the same thing over and over and over again until you get it right. You're going to practice Aikido with other people. And all of that is the practice of Aikido at the dojo. That's what we do.
That is what we do. Yeah. So we create, when you come in to a meeting with us,
or if you come to something else with us.
Something else with us, or even if you're watching a course online with us, what we're going to do is create the space. When we're doing that with a local group of people, it starts with worship, like you were talking about earlier, acknowledging the Almighty before we get into any of the specifics of the Almighty or us in light of God. But first we understand who God is. We pray. We often will share one another's burdens by praying communally, praying openly. And then we will close with Eucharist or Holy Communion. And that, again, is another way that we acknowledge and are reminded of who we are and who God is. So it is very much like a dojo, much more so than even a church service. Because like with a church service, you walk into a sanctuary and already there are things that tell you this is this kind of space. But we can actually literally and have gone into people's homes and done the things that we do and essentially create our own holy space within their house.
Exactly.
Or outside, or wherever we happen to be. So I think that's a really apt way to talk about it. And then in the middle, we're looking at the Bible, we're looking at Scripture, we're taking on a course, like we're about to do a course on forgiveness.
Or we do poetry, or we do art, or whatever it is to help us learn to walk through.
Study and practice. And yeah, so it is. It's a lot like a dojo. I like that comparison a lot.
Oh, good. We're kind of a place of the way.
A place of the way.
A place of the way. And in many cases, we are a virtual place of the way.
And that will become more and more the case because we're going to begin putting out more and more of our resources online for people to access. So we're very excited about that. All that to say, wherever you happen to be, these resources will start to become available. And we're going to be, of course, promoting through our socials. And if you're not already following us, we are on Instagram at both Cocktail Theology and School for the number 4 Seekers. We are on Twitter, same School for Seekers, and Cocktail Theologue, because we ran out of letters.
Yeah, darn Twitter.
Darn it. We're on Facebook. If you're still on Facebook, you can find us there too, and you can email us. But we will be promoting some of the coursework that's coming up. Schoolforseekers.com, that's school4seekers.com, is the place where you will be able to find these resources as they come available. You can learn a lot more about us. You can learn about how to donate and help support the work that we do, tools that are available. And you can learn more about each of us and the stuff that we do Elane's teaching and counseling and the work that she does, my songwriting and worship leading and stuff that I do, and get to know us there as well as here. Just felt like we wanted to take a minute and explain sort of who we are and what we do. Many of you know us just because of the podcast, and that's awesome, and we love you guys for listening and for sharing. But we hope that if some of what we're saying today really resonates with you, that you'll delve a little deeper and find out more about what we do. And then the last thing that I'll say about it is, because we do have a local group that will be meeting in San Jose soon. We have a local group that's already meeting in Nashville. And if 2 or 3 of you and your closest friends want to get together and have a group, what we're calling Sacred City groups, reach out to us and let's talk about that, because we want to empower and enable you to do that. If you'd like to meet up with some of your friends and do some of this coursework together, we can give you a template for some of the worship and things that we do, and maybe even come and be a part of your group one weekend if you want to fly us in. We'll just show up and be like, woo!
Awesome.
Yeah, we'll make cocktails. It'll be great.
Wouldn't that be fun?
It'll be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Was there anything else?
I was just going to say that we do this because we love God and we love people.
Yes.
That's
absolutely.
why we do it.
That's exactly why we do it.
That's why we do it.
This is not our livelihood right now, though we would love for it to be, but we have other jobs and we have other things that we do. This is what I like to call our ministry habit, and we take it very, very seriously, even when we're having a whole lot of fun doing it. We thank you, those of you that have asked who we are and what we do, because we love the opportunity to sort of explain that. And
it's good for us to walk it through, too.
It is.
So, bottom line, you are a beloved child of God. You are cherished by God. You matter. Our goal is to help you know all of that in the bones of your body, and to be able to live from that, from a healthy spirit and soul.
Yes.
That's what we care about.
That's what we care about.
And a good gimlet.
Not a bad thing.
Not a bad thing.
Thanks for listening, y'all.
Bye.
Bye.